All right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. So today I wanted to talk about a bodybuilder by the name of Roger Walker. Now, Roger Walker was a bodybuilder who's from England. He primarily competed in the 1970s, and he was actually in the Royal Marines prior to becoming a professional bodybuilder. So there's a couple things that Roger Walker is famous for. So number one was being featured in the documentary Pumping Iron, which I'm sure most of us have seen. It's primarily about the 1975 Olympia, but it also features some other competitions in that documentary. And in those competitions, Roger Walker is a competitor. So he also placed sixth in the notoriously controversial 1980 Mr. Olympia competition. Now, I recently made a video about the 1980 Mr. Olympia. For those of you who haven't seen it, I highly recommend you check it out. So briefly, the 1980 Mr. Olympia was a very controversial Olympia because this was the year that Arnold came back after a 5-year retirement, and he won the show. And a lot of people thought that was a controversial win. And a lot of the placings in that show were controversial as well. Mike Menser, who actually was runner-up the year prior, he placed fifth at this show. And actually the year prior, in 1979, he actually won the heavyweight division of the Olympia. And Frank Zane won the lightweight division, and then Frank Zane won the overall in 1979. But Mike Menser went from winning the heavyweight division the year prior to placing fifth in 1980. Boyer Coe placed fourth. Frank Zane placed third, I believe. And Chris Dickerson placed second. So the placings were all kind of mixed up, and a lot of people didn't agree with most of them. So that was most of the controversy with the 1980 Mr. Olympia. So Roger Walker is also famous for winning the 1976 Mr. Universe competition, which is a very big title, obviously. And he's also famous for being kind of a big bodybuilder for the 1970s. And what I mean by big is in terms of body weight. So he was 300 plus pounds in the off season, and he was 235 pounds on stage. So keep in mind, that's pretty big by today's standards, let alone 40 years ago in the 1970s. That's a pretty big bodybuilder, 300 pounds in the off season, 235 on stage. That's a pretty big dude. So he was pretty famous for having a lot of, just rock solid muscle, and just being a big muscular guy. He wasn't really a mass monster, but he was a pretty big dude for the 1970s, make no doubt about it. And in a lot of the photos from the 1980 Mr. Olympia, you can see there's some famous photos of Roger Walker and Arnold Schwarzenegger glaring at each other on stage. I've got those photos in this video. You're probably looking at one right now. So he claims that the 1980 Olympia was rigged for Arnold Schwarzenegger. I was reading an interview article done with Roger Walker, and he was saying that, camera crews pretty much followed Arnold everywhere he went at the 1980 Olympia. He says that Arnold flew in on a private jet, brought his camera crew with him, and kind of everything backstage was kind of catered towards Arnold and kind of presenting Arnold with the most comfortable environment possible. Camera crews, again, followed him everywhere. And Roger Walker was also quoted as saying, quote, "Arnold has always been an asshole." So he said that ever since he met Arnold in the early 70s, he was always an asshole. He always gave off a bad impression, and he always kind of seemed stuck up, and he was never humble in any sense of the word. Now, Roger does give Arnold props where props are due. He says that in 1971, when Arnold came in actually conditioned and in very good shape, that's what Arnold looked like at his prime. He said 1971 Arnold is unbeatable, but the 1980 Arnold, that was not a good Arnold Schwarzenegger. So he still gives Arnold Schwarzenegger props even though he doesn't like him. But he said honestly in 1980 he does not believe Arnold Schwarzenegger was in shape, and he does not believe he was the true winner. So that is the story of Roger Walker. There's not a whole lot of information out there on this guy, but I wanted to give you guys a little bit of a brief information that I could find. So please give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Nick Strength and Power, signing out.